deal with the impact and to respond. So I'll show you just with these ropes, which are real handy, the basic idea. So you would set up these hurdles in succession and just imagine that there was, hurdles here and we're just going over them forward. So you just jump. Okay? We go forward and we go lateral. You just work your way through. Real simple. And then there's a drill that we do where we line up the 4 hurdles into a box. So we basically back each hurdle up in this way. And we start on the back side of it and work our way through, starting and going to the right first. And then on the second rep, we go to the left. So we're jumping over hurdles as you do this. If you can imagine, there's hurdles there about 12 inch. So you're going in and then out. Anthony actually had in his apartment in Knoxville, we called it the war room. He had all the stuff. He was doing it on the second floor of a bedroom apartment. And, the whole place was shaking when he was doing it, but it's probably easy on his legs. It was fun. Neighbors didn't seem to mind, but, he was getting it done, so that's what matters. With the athletes, I always try to, keep things simple and workable for them. This is a simple way to get it done. You can do it anyway. Okay, so then we finished up with the, like I said, low hurdles, just again to put the wiring together and just get the legs used to going over something. It doesn't have to be high at first. You can move them up as you go. Okay. This is the fun part. Phase 3. So you think about, what do you have to do? Okay? Well, the first thing, I think the most important thing to look at in steeple is the water jump technique, to provide your body with the strength and to deal with the impact there. Okay? I'm going to talk first about the biomechanics. I'll talk about a drill that I like that we can use, and then we'll also go into these lead leg resistance and a lower leg strengthening drill specific to dealing with the impact in the water jump. So the first thing I'm going to look at here is a schematic. And the reason I have this up is because I want to talk about the muscular requirements and also the biomechanics, which is not, I'm sorry, Gordon, it's not hurdling the, it's not the one. This is stepping the hurdle here, okay? And I think what we're going to talk about here becomes even more important for women because their takeoff point for the water jump is lower, okay? What did we say, 30 inches? Okay? So talking about going off for the women, a 30-inch takeoff point and having to quit 12 feet, maybe landing hopefully at about 11 and a half here. Okay, so I've broken it down into 5 phases just so we can talk about it. And I highlighted some areas where I think it's real important to talk about. Can everybody hear me okay? You guys hear all right? What I want to talk about here is there's been a philosophy of, and people have said it, and I don't know if anybody's heard this, is stay low. Has anybody ever heard that? Stay low? We were trained for a while there to stay low, get on top of the barrier and stay low. Well, the problem with that is, as you begin to take off to phase 5, if your hips are down low, your trajectory is going to drive you down to here. As you can see in this schematic here, he's extending and pushing up. He's low at first because he's kind of on a nice trajectory to the barrier. But then as he gets on top and begins to roll over, he extends and almost stands off the barrier. And I think that really needs to happen probably even more so in here. All it takes is a little push right from here. And the push is these purple lines is where you want to push back, apply the force to get you to go out and up, not just out. Out sends you on a trajectory down. You want to go out and up. So it's almost a 45-degree push. And all it is if you time it right, it's like a tap. You're just tapping it. Once you got your momentum coming into the barrier, when you get up to that position, and like we were talking about, use that stiffness or the load in the muscle to extend out and up, your speed with that push is going to carry you right to here. Okay, when you land, you want to be able to carry your momentum through and not have to land too deeply into that pit. That's where all the force is on the lower leg. If your hips come across the top of this, or the very end of this pit here, at 12 feet, it's going to be easier and less pressure on your lower leg to come through. If you're landing back here, coming down and landing down lower into that pit, your force is going to drive your heel down, and that's a tremendous amount of pressure on the lower leg and the Achilles. So you want to try to push out and up through there. See how he's got his arm cocked nicely here, too? Carry that through, bring him on out of the pit. So we could talk about this at the very end if you'd like to, but I know there's some different philosophies out there, but I really think that's a key thing, and we worked a lot of that on that a lot with Anthony. And you can just see it. It's just a nice flow when you come through and you get that height through here. His hips are up nice and high. And especially for women because the takeoff point is lower. They got to actually probably even push a little bit more to get out there. But again, it doesn't take that much of a push if you time it right. Okay? So how do we set up for that? Well, the sandpit water jump drill is, how many times can you actually train jumping into a water pit? It's too much pressure to do in training. Most people don't do a lot of them because there's a lot of wear and tear on the body. You're out there, and a lot of times there's no water in the pit. You can't jump. It's hard to jump into a dry pit. It just tears your legs up. So what I do is just basically take a regular barrier, put it at the very front of the sand pit, or the very beginning of the sand pit at the end of the long jump runway. Watch out if the long jumpers are out there, they may not like that much. But and measure off a 12-foot line in the sand. And you're basically just using the runway of the long jump pit coming down, and you can work on these mechanics. And you can do a lot of repetitions there without a lot of wear and tear on the body because you're landing in sand. And the sand marks your landing too. Okay, so when you're landing in the sand, you can say, well, where you landed? You're landing 3 feet from the 12-foot line. You're too far back. It's not going to get it. So you can work on extending that by some of the principles I was talking about in the water jump. So how many water jumps do we have? We have 7. So 7 quality jumps is good. That's the goal. Quality reps. Okay? So we did the, how do we adapt? How do we get stronger? Well, to me, strength is endurance. Okay? At the clinic in New York, Phil Wharton actually came up with this one, like in the last couple of years that I was training. And we did some resistance training off a pulley. We don't always have a pulley machine to do the next drill we're going to do. But what I had adapted and what we were doing with Anthony was these tubing, the banding. He really got into these. He was doing a lot of them. But basically what you do here with this drill is you take, make sure it's tight because you don't want to get snapped in the ass with this thing. So basically what you're doing here is like the standing drill we did earlier, but you're just going to do it with resistance. Okay? And you can do it from a standing position, so you're really getting a lot of stability on the stabilizing leg to do these. And it's the same drill. You basically, there it goes. You basically have to tie it really tight. No, so you get the idea. It's basically resistance using your lead leg. So you can really actually start to do it with some speed too, and you can really ramp that up. And Anthony really loved these. We have them on film, just getting into it. So again, do the same thing with the trail leg, coming through with the resistance, And you really can work that hip flexor very specific to the needs. Okay? Remember, strength is endurance. When you can repeat something with resistance, without resistance it becomes easier. Okay? And that's efficiency. Okay. So, actually in '07, even before Anthony ran the trials, he had an Achilles problem. It's actually more of a peroneal problem in his lower leg. And I had been working on this drill before he even came, and we started to use it then. And we worked on perfecting it over the last year, and it really helped him get through the year without any problems in the lower leg. So what we did is we broke down exactly what happens when you land in the water pit. And basically what happens is because you're landing on about, Gordon may be able to answer me, but is there a standard on the degree of angle in the water pit? Is it a 45-degree angle?
No, it's not a standard. It's just it has to start, I think it's less than a meter. The slope starts less than a meter.
Got it. So we need Chapman to figure that one out. Statistics on that. Anyway, so basically what you do is try to simulate that the surface that you're going to land on is on an angle. So your heel, quite possibly, is always going to be lower than your forefoot. Okay? And also that your knee is also going to be bent and coming forward. So now when you look at that, on the Achilles and the lower leg, the angle is probably about, I'd say, 30 degrees of flexion, which is a lot of force. You know, so what you have to do is you have to prepare the Achilles and the lower leg for that. And so what we do is we adapted this in the gym for Anthony, and there was a machine, like it was a weight machine, something that he was doing it off of. And I have some people doing it at the clinic also in New York. But you can use a block of wood or anything that has a little bit of height. It doesn't have to be much, 2 to 3 inches. And basically you get in there and you're doing calf raises off of that. So you're simulating the exact motion that you need to repeat, just like that. Now again, if you have a lower leg injury already, you have an irritated Achilles or peroneal problem, you want to deal with that first before you get into something like that. Because that's going to cause, you know, it can cause irritation and stuff if you do that. So again, you know, we did, I say 20 jumps on landing leg, okay? I mean 20 reps on a landing leg. Some people only take the water jump with one leg. Obviously you want to work both legs, and you want to always be able to take the jump whichever leg comes up. Okay, so we do it on both sides. Okay? It's, you know, your athletes will get some soreness when they really get into doing a decent amount of reps. Again, you probably don't want to do more than 40 reps on something like that. You're going to get into overuse problems. Okay, so how do you implement this into the overall program? Like I said, you want to do at least 8 weeks of the foundation program, and that should be done all year round, but I'm just saying as a minimum, if you have to do, or I would recommend starting phase 2 by the latest end of January, February. So you figure the foundation phase has to start somewhere around end of November there, beginning like after cross-country season for most people. So that puts you into February. You do 8 weeks of phase 2, 4 weeks of phase 2, now you're at the end of February going into March. So now you got 4 weeks of some of this phase 3 stuff that's even more specific and maybe a little more aggressive in strength training for the event. So that puts you right at the end of April. So now you're ready to race. Okay, so like I said, for Anthony, in my opinion, you know, obviously he didn't have any races in '07, but you saw this year how he went after it a little bit more. And that's obviously what I encourage him to do. And you can't really tell Anthony to do anything. encourage him to do things. And anyway, so this year, you know, I told him 2 steeples, really to just be even ready to race it. It takes a little while to get the event down. You know, it's very dynamic down there. Okay? We were talking about a lot earlier, Robert, about how Fan was leading races this year and how it is easier to lead a race. And I just wanted to open up the discussion on that because after talking to him and us discussing what, you know, the whole year in the Olympics and all, I think one of the things that he probably should have done is get a little more comfortable running in the race at the Olympics. Because depending on, you know, what you're ready to run, it's not always easy to lead an Olympic final, you know, and win a medal and lead from the gun. So I think you just have to be prepared to be in the mix. And the only time he did that was in Stockholm. And actually in Stockholm, he proved he really wasn't ready because he got stuck in no man's land. You know, the lead pack left him, and he was stuck in no man's land. And he was again running, and could see the hurdles coming. I think, you know, even, you know, going back to Krogan, you know, I don't know what his philosophy is now, but going back at the international level, when the races were fast, it's easy to run in a pack because people up front move pretty well over the hurdles. But when you get to the championship level in the heats, if you have to run in the pack and you're not used to that, it's really hard to see the barriers coming at you. You know, so you do really have to get used to that. You know, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about and open up the discussion for is that I don't ever like to call them hurdles as much. I don't consider it a distance, like there was some philosophy of calling it distance hurdling, because, you know, it's not a hurdle. If you hit a barrier, you're done. One and done, you're gone. So you really, you know, if you're going over a barrier, clearing a barrier by an inch or a half inch, and you're running 65 pace, and you're in a race with 18 Kenyans, and I don't know if you've ever been in a race with a lot of Kenyans, but there's arms and legs going everywhere. I mean, it's just like, you know. So when you're coming up to a barrier, and if you're going to clear a barrier by a half inch, and as you go up and get into that, come over that barrier, you get clipped. There's not a lot of margin forever. Again, you know, it only takes one and you're done. So if you do the proper training and you prepare your body to give yourself maybe a little bit more of a margin of error, and that's what Anthony's big fear was. He was like, I don't want to graze that thing, you know, because in 2004 he was knocked out of the Olympics and he was pissed. So, you know, I think that you have to be careful about how close you do get to the hurdle, and prepare your body and prepare your strategy to know that, you know, you got to be careful when you're running a big race and it's a pack. You know, I think that happened to Mark in 05, in 95, Robert, didn't he go down? And he was in a pack. I think that was with like a lap and a half to go, and he was right in the hunt. And you know, I don't know if he got clipped or somebody cut him off, you know. And it's just, you know, that's the kind of thing that'll happen. But again, it's not a hurdle, it's a barrier. You know, it's one and done. You hit it and you're out. Okay? And I don't know if you can't lead the big ones, I'm not sure. If you can run 8 flat, you probably can be pretty confident that you can go to the Olympic final and lead from wire to wire. But you better be running, in my opinion, you better be ready to run 8 flat. Because if you're planning on running 8-10 and you lead from, you know, 5 to wide, there's going to be a lot of guys just hanging on for the ride. So, anyway, that's just a philosophy I have in just watching the progression over the years, and never really being able to take the lead like I probably should have some of the time, but as an athlete myself. But I think there are certain situations where you have to be prepared to run in the pack. Okay, so I had talked about some of this already, like when you should start the phase 2, and also during the peak phases. Obviously, I think you should continue to do all these things. You may cut them back to once a week. Like it was great to see Mark's program today, Mark Krogan's program, because he did, like during certain phases, he was cutting it back to once a week. He stopped doing it because you don't want to lose it, because after 10 days, if you're not doing some kind of stimulation there, you may see some kind of drop-off in the neurological connections there, the wiring. So you want to keep that sharp. So remember, here to really just simplify it. When an athlete increases his or her agility, they become a better steepler. I don't know. I don't care how much you improve your hurling, that will come with strength, but you're going to become a better steepler if you're more agile. There's just no question about it. And you're going to become a better runner. So some of these things we did here, and you know, this is just one philosophy. It worked for Anthony. He's a bit of a freak. He did most of what I told him to do there. I think it's pretty simple to say that some of those things, you know, if you do them, you're going to see an improvement. And you know, obviously, you got to get out there and run and train. But I think we had a lot of good conversations on how to help athletes do that. So again, share this with your athletes. Encourage them to, you know, to stay in the event. Pull more people into the event, you know, by offering them, you know, the opportunity to run the race. And I also, part of my recruitment to Anthony is that I really felt like this steeplechase, and as you were saying earlier, Robert, it's really a great opportunity for Americans to get medals, because if you look at over the years, you know, 8'10", 8'11", you can sneak in it. The French guy who got a medal this year. You know, it's just like this great opportunity in this event for us to not steal a medal, but earn one. You know, and the other thing is not to, but you always got to weigh your competitions for whatever reasons, and they are starting to get into it now. You're not dealing with Ethiopians. For whatever reason, they don't run the event, and I think it's because they like to get out there and get in that rhythm and just fly. What's that?
There's no water in Ethiopia.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is, but so if you take them out of the equation, you're opening up a few spots, you know, and then there's always, you know, maybe one or two canyons that don't make it through. It's real good, and you know, I'm just talking about the competition that's out there, and so there's real opportunity for us to get in there and take a medal. So again, encourage the athletes to do it. And I think that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, so it's just, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them. I think I kept it pretty good on the timing, so that's it, really. Anybody have any questions on that?
We thought you were going to hurdle the lectern a couple times to show the water jump.
Well, I told
proficiency.
Gordon if I saw anybody falling asleep, I could just start doing some plows across the table.
We'd settle for that.
Yeah. Thanks for your attention, guys.
Tommy, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
For the average middle distance and distance runner, what are the most important drills that are not a steeplechaser, 800, 1500, 5, 10? What are the hip flexor strength training that you would really suggest for?
Well, you know, that handout there is really just a basic program.